he routinely talks about how he's using his power of observation and deduction and all these different things to get the effects that he wants. He's like, I'm not a psychic.
He says that multiple times.
Yeah.
He actually doubles down on the fact that, like, no, this is a skill.
Yeah.
I'm talented because I've worked at this.
Yeah.
I do my homework.
Yeah. I'm researched.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. And I come out here. And so that's a very, very prime example where if what we're saying isn't really making sense into when we're talking about the observation as a skill, look at that.
So yeah, I mean, like, we can jump right into...
Yeah, I'm down with that. Just jump right into
I think we should. I think there's so much stuff that we talked about today around talent that I think we kind of covered the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how do we define talent, what kind of, you know, things make up talent between gifts that are kind of, you know, RNG, or skills, right, that you can develop over time and actually get better at to become talented.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, so this is super secret right now, right?
This is super secret,
This is
and
super
I think
secret.
Because we have that groundwork, we can then talk a little bit about that and go into how do you combine multiple talents to see that exponential growth.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in foundational skills for talent.
Yes.
The things that you will develop as a byproduct of just living, but you can dramatically increase your effectiveness in using the skills if you're intentional about it. And so the main thing that comes to mind is observation. Last time we talked about this, or we talked a little bit about this during the week, but active listening.
Yeah.
And they seem so obvious, and we actually learn these skills pretty early on, but we don't really have context for the skills, and so we don't end up developing them beyond school exercises. So with observation, what I've noticed is that the world reveals more of itself the more you look and the deeper you look. And whatever specific space you're in will also reveal more of itself. The nuances will reveal themselves as you continue to look deeper. And so some people look at, for instance, programming as pressing keys on a computer and putting hieroglyphs on the screen and then making a website. Other people look at it as communicating with a machine and they really dig into the whole idea of languages, and there's more effective ways to use your language when you're communicating with machines. And some people think of the algorithm as what YouTube shows them. Other people look at algorithms with more depth and with more specificity. They understand the difference between depth and breadth algorithms. They understand the difference between how to apply all of these different types of algorithms with what they're doing and how to spot them in the world. But I think a lot of that takes the patience and to look and observe and say, okay, what is this? And ask questions and interrogate the thing that they're trying to understand more. I think a lot of talent comes down to understanding not only the field that you're in, but then how to apply your knowledge in the field that you're in.
And using those fundamental things. It's interesting you brought up observation. That is one of those things that I don't think really anybody looks at as a fundamental skill, or I think they take it for granted.
One thing, and I agree, and one thing, I've been thinking about this for a while.
Yeah.
One thing that I go back to is, you know those games where it shows you two pictures and it says spot the difference?
Yeah.
That's a really base observational skill that we've been trained at. That's something that we don't look at it as training because we saw
Waldo?
the games.
Same thing.
That's another thing. Can you pick out Waldo in this big mess of things? Some people are really, really good at that. But that also applies to other situations. Can you identify the problem? So you have somebody who is... We always talk about feedback being a gift, but I think that that's just the first part of it. Then it comes down to how deeply can you observe what this person's actually saying or what they're trying to communicate and actively listen. And so just like the whole Where's Waldo exercise, this person's going to give you a whole bunch of words, a whole bunch of conflicting behaviors, a whole bunch of different things, and then we're also in this landscape of what you understand. Can you spot the specific problem that's going to make that person say, yes, I want to do business with you because you understand me? That's a Where's Waldo applied in real life, and that's an observational skill.
That is a level of expertise and talent that only a select few people in the world have mastered.
Yeah.
Right? And I think there are varying levels of talent in the world at this.
Yeah. Oh, let's dive in now. Because we're talking about observation, right?
We're talking about.
Are we going to the same place
we're
right
going
now?
to the master of observation.
Well, this isn't the master because I'm going to pull out another rabbit, but we're talking about Oz Pearlman.
We are.
Detroit.
Let's go. Farmington, actually.
Farmington, yes.
Yeah. Shout out.
Let's go. Actually, they combined Harrison High, my former high school, with North Farmington, so technically we went to the same high school. But he's a mentalist, and he routinely talks about how he's using his power of observation and deduction and all these different things to get the effects that he wants. He's like, I'm not a psychic.
He says that multiple times.
Yeah.
He actually doubles down on the fact that, like, no, this is a skill.
Yeah.
I'm talented because I've worked at this.
Yeah.
I do my homework.
Yeah. I'm researched.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing, and I come out here. And so that's a very, very prime example where if what we're saying isn't really making sense into when we're talking about the observation as a skill, look at that. Because he not only has great effect when he actually pulls off his performance, but he's also verbalizing how it is a skill. How what you're seeing is he's playing in these invisible lanes of perception because he's noticed that most people don't notice that.
Yes.
And so it is a combination of doing a lot of research, but it doesn't just stop there. It's the application of it and the testing of it, and then the endurance of the suffering that you go through when you're trying to get better at something.
Yes, and that's like an expert in his field, super talented, gets paid for what he does, a paid observer.
Yeah, a paid observer.
But you can learn so much from looking at those experts, just like we can learn so much from LeBron, right? Like, and how he approaches the game and how he approaches his craft.
Yeah.
You know, Oz is amazing at what he does, but he's essentially a paid observer.
Yeah.
Like, that's how deep that fundamental goes. Is that you can get so good, it feels like he's in your mind. That is another level of observation.
Weird. And the master observer is a guy who isn't alive anymore, but his name was Milton Erickson. He was a former hypnotherapist, and when he was young, he was born to a family where he was, I think, one of the only boys in a family full of women.
Okay.
And he got polio really early. And one thing that he talks about is when he was younger and he was completely paralyzed.
Yeah, bedridden.
He talks about how he would observe his sisters talking with each other.
Yeah.
And he got really, really good at spotting the nuance between what they meant behind what they said. He realized that a yes didn't always mean a yes, and a no didn't always mean a no. Disclaimer, of course. Just default to no meaning no.
We can say that on a super secret. Yeah.
But point being is that he just started to really get good at that. And so, of course, I think everybody can, at some level, understand that, but he was so good that he could understand it with accuracy, precision, and he got the results.
He can compound on that.
And so that it was a skill, and he even talks about it. He's like, observe. There's accounts of people talking about their interactions with him, and they're like, this guy had such an ability to understand the nuances. Like, he could tell if somebody was cheating just by the way that they walked into a room.
Yep.
Because he notices that some people walk, like, typically when people walk in this way, they do this, this, and this, and then when other people walk in, they do another set of behaviors. Right. And so he was just very, very subtle. He was able to see the subtleties and the nuances of how people interacted, and observing that and apply it to his craft, which was helping people. He was a therapist, and so that's when you look into his profile, you start really seeing how powerful a simple skill of observation actually is.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Even like the Oz stuff this week kind of blew my mind. You know, the Joe Rogan podcast where he's guessing his bank account numbers, to the flagrant stuff where he's literally spelling out flagrant.
He got them to spell out the word.
Oh my gosh.
Pick the letters.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and so that's something where that's so tangible. I mean, you see that and you're like,
it's also supposed to be a performance.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of like selling on that.
But that's great though, because when you hear about, for instance, like a hypnotherapist that was really good, it can be hard to imagine what that actually looks like.
Right.
And so when you see a mentalist, it becomes really, really powerful because it's so much, you can see it.
Yeah.
And I know they say, like, believe before you see, but sometimes it helps seeing to believe.
Yes.
Another couple people are Darren Brown. He's another very, very observational mentalist that has a whole bunch of specials out there where they're just mind-blowing. Ossie Wind is a guy. He was on the Huberman Lab. He had an extensive podcast because Andrew Huberman is a neuroscientist, and he was talking with a mentalist about the neuroscience of mentalism. And so that's a really, really interesting listen, just to see how far you can go with like the observational skills. I think the fictional character that a lot of people know about is Sherlock Holmes, who used his power of observation and deduction, and then his ability to integrate all that stuff to come to a conclusion. But he was based off of a guy named I'm forgetting his name. But he was based off of a guy, I think he was a guy that worked at Bell Labs.
I think so too.
I can't remember his name, but you can look up who he's based off of, but that's another person who saw the value in these foundational skills that everybody's been given but nobody really takes advantage of.
Yeah.
And was able to apply them to what their given field was. And so they made a talent. So we're all talented in certain respects, but I think part of it is recognizing the talent and then developing that into a skill.
No, that's the theme of this week is helping, I think, and kind of on us too, like helping people develop those hidden talents, finding the things that they discount themselves, to then say, hey, like, let's shine a light on this. People are actually super interested in this part of your existence, and so let's double down on that. You know, that is something that I found myself in us talking about with some of the clients that we're working with now, is strengths. I found myself saying that a lot to people. Hey, we're going to do this because this is a strength of yours. This is something that you're good at. Doesn't mean other people are bad at it, but it's something that you're good at. You feel comfortable and at ease doing this thing, whether that is like a visual skill or just the ability to talk at length without having like a clear curriculum or point that you're trying to get across. Like, to me, that's something that not everybody can do. And so if not everybody can do it, then there's some form of a talent. Let's lean into that and develop that into a skill and put some more structure around it, so that way it can be something that works for you. Yeah, and that's the most important thing, is making it work for you, to make sure that you don't have to work for somebody else.
Boom. Let's look at that. That's a bar. Let's go. Let's go.
And so if you guys are interested in working with us, check out this community that this video is on, and reach out to us. Comment down below, and we'll definitely reach back out, and you can work with us to discover your talents and your strengths, and be able to work for yourself instead of working for somebody else.
Let's go.
All right.
Peace out.
Peace.